Welcome, welcome, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a truly unique and I think incredibly personal journey into the labyrinth of lyrical storytelling.
It feels very special, this one.
It really does. We're going to dive deep into five powerful unreleased lyrics from the upcoming albums of the band The Last Gate.
And these aren't just any lyrics.
No, exactly. This isn't just another deep dive. It's a privileged look into the creative heart of a very close friend of ours, the extraordinarily talented Sergio M. Bustamante.
A remarkable individual.
Absolutely. He's not only the lyricist for The Last Gate, but also a passionate, outspoken mental health advocate.
And his personal experience is key here, isn't it?
It's absolutely central to unlocking the profound depths of these words. Sergio is openly autistic, having received a late diagnosis that, well, as you can imagine, profoundly reshaped his entire understanding of himself and his past.
A seismic shift, really.
Totally. He also experiences what's known as ADHD, that's the co-occurrence of autism and ADHD, and he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder earlier in his life.
And on top of that, fibromyalgia.
Yes, in addition to living with fibromyalgia, a chronic pain condition. So these lyrics aren't just abstract poetry, they are a raw, intimate exploration of his journey through profound grief, through the often uncomfortable process of self-confrontation, and that incredibly brave, lifelong undertaking of unmasking.
And that's precisely the multifaceted lens we're bringing to this deep dive for you, our listener. We'll be exploring these lyrics not just as art, but really as a window into the human psyche.
How are we approaching that?
We'll be drawing on rich perspectives from psychology, particularly the deep symbolism of Jungian archetypes, and crucially, a nuanced understanding of autism itself.
Right.
Our mission today is to offer you, hopefully, a shortcut to understanding the complex, sometimes paradoxical interplay of identity, neurodivergence, and the human spirit as expressed through profound artistic creation.
So hopefully some aha moments along the way.
That's the goal. Get ready for moments that might challenge your perceptions, offering those aha revelations and entirely new perspectives on what it truly means to grapple with and ultimately embrace one's authentic self, even when that self doesn't fit conventional molds.
Okay, let's begin our journey with the first song, titled Dragon's Lair. Just the name alone for me immediately evokes such powerful, almost ancient imagery, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Myth, legend.
Exactly. It instantly conjures up myths, forgotten stories, and a profound sense of something hidden, formidable, and perhaps even, a little dangerous.
The Dragon's Lair immediately frames itself as a narrative of profound withdrawal, doesn't it? Of a perceived disappearance from the world and an intense internal struggle with one's intrinsic value and core identity.
So not just hiding, but something more fundamental.
Precisely. It's not merely a physical retreat, but a deep, almost archetypal turning inward. In Jungian terms, the dragon often symbolizes the ego's powerful, untamed instincts, but also, interestingly, a hidden treasure, the self, fiercely guarded. So the lair becomes this sanctuary, a place of both confinement, maybe, and potential rebirth.
Okay, let's unpack this opening verse then. It immediately sets such a vivid scene. Once beat a heart, rushed by the wind, landscapes gone fast under the swoosh of her wings. What truly strikes me here is this overwhelming sense of rapid, almost chaotic movement, and then this powerful yet unseen force that dictates the entire pace.
This opening paints such a visceral picture, doesn't it?
Right.
A life lived with intense velocity, almost as if one is constantly being swept away.
Yeah, no control.
Exactly. For Sergio, this could profoundly reflect the internal experience of ADHD, that dual neurological wiring of autism and ADHD, where thoughts, external stimuli, and even environmental changes can feel overwhelmingly fast-paced and fragmented.
Like trying to catch your breath constantly.
Yes. Imagine trying to process a constant torrent of information, always feeling a step behind or, paradoxically, moving so quickly internally that you miss external details. The swoosh of her wings suggests a mighty, almost mythical, and certainly external force dictating this relentless speed.
What could that force be?
Well, it could represent societal expectations, constantly pushing one to perform, to keep up. Or it could even be an internal drive, a hyperactivity of the mind that propels one forward without much conscious control.
And the result.
The consequence, landscapes gone fast, speaks to experiences or moments that pass without the opportunity for full processing, genuine engagement, or emotional integration. It's a poignant depiction of life rushing by, leaving a sense of ungrasped reality.
And then, almost immediately following that powerful imagery, we get this gut punch at a question. Was it even worth it?
Oh.
Right there at the start.
It just shifts the entire tone so dramatically, doesn't it? From this rapid, almost epic scene to a moment of raw, vulnerable, and deeply personal introspection.
This question is incredibly potent, and its strategic placement right at the outset is masterful. It speaks to a moment of profound introspection and, frankly, searing doubt.
Which you said is common with late diagnosis. Incredibly common, almost inevitable, in the journey of a late autism diagnosis. When an individual finally understands their entire past through this new, clarifying, and often painful lens, a common question arises. Was the immense, lifelong effort of masking,
That constant performance.
exactly, of constantly performing a neurotypical version of yourself, of suppressing authentic behaviors and needs to conform, worth the profound emotional, psychological, and personal cost to one's genuine self?
That's a heavy question.
It is. And this question is often accompanied by a deep, complex grief for what was lost, for the energy expended, and for the authentic self that was sacrificed in the lifelong pursuit of acceptance or perceived normalcy.
So, from a Jungian view,
From a Jungian perspective, it's a direct questioning of the persona's efficacy and value. The persona being that social mask we all wear to navigate the world. Was that mask truly effective in achieving genuine connection, or did it merely create a barrier while exacting a terrible toll?
so the core insight is the cost.
The profound, often delayed cost of societal conformity on one's authentic being.
Here's where the dragon motif truly begins to take hold, solidifying its place in the narrative. Thus, the story tells, the lady dragon became forgotten not, just not to be seen anymore, not to be anymore.
That repetition.
Yeah. The idea of being not to be seen anymore isn't about being gone in the sense of oblivion, but rather about a deliberate, almost imposed invisibility, a conscious withdrawal.
Precisely. The lady dragon here, as we discussed, can be seen as a powerful archetypal representation of the individual's core self, their powerful, authentic, maybe untamed nature.
Right.
Her becoming not to be seen anymore speaks to a profound act of withdrawal, not necessarily oblivion, but a retreat from external perception and engagement.
And this links to autism.
It resonates deeply with concepts like autistic shutdown or burnout, which are physiological and psychological responses to overwhelm. During shutdown, an individual might become nonverbal, physically still, or emotionally unresponsive. In burnout, it's a prolonged state of exhaustion from constant masking and sensory overload.
So the withdrawal is a consequence.
Often, yes. These states often manifest as a retreat from an overwhelming or demanding world. This dark repetition of not to be anymore hints at a fundamental shift in identity, a shedding of the old self, possibly due to the sheer exhaustion and unsustainability of maintaining a constant mask.
The mask just can't be held up anymore.
Exactly. The persona has been consciously discarded, and what remains is not for public consumption, at least not in the same way. It's an act of self-preservation, even if it appears as an erasure from the outside.
And then we get to the lair itself. In her lair, so many ventured by fiery flames, all were detoured.
The defenses go up.
Right, this immediately suggests protection, boundaries, a kind of fierce defense. But it also hints at a barrier to genuine connection, a double-edged sword that keeps people out, for better or worse.
Indeed. The lair symbolizes a deeply personal inner space, a subconscious refuge where the authentic self resides, protected from the harshness of the outside world.
And the flames.
The fiery flames are formidable defenses, designed to protect this core self from intrusion, misunderstanding, or harm. For an autistic individual, these boundaries can manifest as a deep need for solitude, intense sensory regulation to avoid overwhelming input, or a unique approach to social reciprocity.
Which can be misunderstood.
Very easily misunderstood by neurotypical individuals as disinterest or aloofness. These very real internal needs and boundaries might detour others who try to enter their world without understanding or respect for these unique internal rules.
So it's self-protection, but isolating.
It's a self-preservation mechanism, yes, but it inevitably creates a distance. The key insight here is the inherent conflict between the need for protective solitude and the human desire for connection, a tension often felt keenly by neurodivergent individuals navigating a neurotypical world.
Then this part. So many say, the spell has taken, the mighty will of the dragon maiden, the mighty will and the swoosh of her wings.
The external perspective.
Exactly. This is fascinating because it shows society, or many, interpreting her state. They see a spell having taken her will, as if she's lost agency, rather than made a choice or reached a limit.
This verse is a powerful critique of the neurotypical gaze. The perspective from which neurodivergent behaviors are often pathologized or misunderstood because they don't align with conventional norms.
Right, they see difference as deficit.
Precisely. What is, in fact, an act of self-preservation, an authentic way of being, or a necessary retreat for the dragon or the autistic individual is interpreted by many as a loss of mighty will. It's as if a spell has robbed them of agency, when in reality they might be exerting their agency by withdrawing, by unmasking, by refusing to continue a performance that is no longer sustainable.
So it's a complete misreading.
A profound misinterpretation. This speaks directly to how difference is often misinterpreted as deficit or illness, rather than simply a unique form of existence or adaptation. The repetition of mighty will and the swoosh of her wings ironically reinforces the power that is perceived as lost, when it might simply be redirected inward, or manifest in a completely different, less externally visible way in an unmasked state. It's a profound statement on societal misunderstanding of neurodivergent autonomy.
And the narrator confirms this state. So I confirmed, not to be seen, not to be heard, not to be anymore. This is a heavy confirmation, almost an acceptance of this state of disappearance. The narrator is deeply validating it, taking ownership.
Yes, the narrator, the I, confirms this state, which signals a deep internal validation of the dragon's withdrawal, or perhaps a direct and powerful identification with the dragon's plight. It's an embrace of non-existence in the external socially defined sense.
Which sounds painful, but necessary.
It's a crucial, albeit often painful, step in the unmasking process. Recognizing and accepting the self that fundamentally doesn't fit societal molds, even if it means becoming invisible or not there, to those who cannot see or understand beyond the mask that was once worn. It's a quiet yet definitive declaration of self-acceptance, even if it comes from a place of necessary retreat and profound grief for the loss of a perceived normal existence.
The pain and acceptance together.
The core insight here is the painful but necessary self-acceptance that comes with stepping away from the demands of the persona.
The personal connection is made explicit right here. Sometimes I think, should I follow her fate? For many times, I am down, I am not there.
That fear, yeah.
That fear of shared destiny, the potential for this profound withdrawal to be their own path. It's chilling.
This line reveals the deep empathy and direct identification with the dragon's plight. The lyricist openly contemplates if this path of profound withdrawal and disappearance is his own inevitable fate.
And I am down, I am not there. That feels very specific.
It powerfully expresses experiences of dissociation, profound depressive states, or emotional overwhelm. These experiences are tragically common for individuals managing the complexities of ADHD, bipolar disorder, where mood states can fluctuate wildly, and chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia, where the body's pain can detach the mind from present reality, making one feel physically or emotionally absent.
It's not just a metaphor, it's lived experience.
Exactly. It's a candid admission of profound vulnerability and a shared sense of existential struggle. This isn't just a fleeting feeling, it's a recurring pattern, suggesting the deep impact of his neurodivergence and health conditions on his sense of presence.
So while the story of the dragon has a clear narrative arc of being begone, the narrator's own future remains uncertain. So the story tells of a dragon be gone, I just don't know if that's where I'll go.
That ambivalence is key.
Yeah, profound ambivalence. He sees the path, but isn't sure if it's his.
Yes. While the story of the dragon provides a relatable archetype or even a cautionary tale, the narrator hasn't fully committed to that specific outcome for themselves. This ambivalence suggests a powerful internal struggle.
Between what?
Between the magnetic pull towards profound withdrawal, a seemingly inevitable response to overwhelm or pain, and a lingering desire for a different path, perhaps one of reintegration or a new form of existence outside of complete societal invisibility.
So the unmasking journey isn't just one direction.
Not at all. It highlights the internal conflict that often accompanies accepting a late diagnosis, where one's entire life narrative shifts, and the future, once seemingly clear, becomes a blank slate that needs to be redefined from a place of newfound, but often raw, authenticity. The journey of unmasking is rarely linear, and this line perfectly captures that uncertainty.
And then this incredibly powerful moment of shared experience, almost a sense of community. She's not the first, I'm not the first, not to be anymore. She's not the last, neither will I. We're not the first, we won't be the last.
Ah, the shift from I to we.
Yes. It's almost a collective identity forming around this feeling of not being anymore. It broadens everything.
This broadens the narrative from a singular, isolated experience to a collective one, a profound statement of solidarity. It speaks to the universal human experience of profound internal struggles, where individuals might feel gone or invisible within societal structures.
But especially for the neurodivergent community.
It resonates particularly strongly and powerfully with the neurodivergent community, especially those with late diagnoses, who often share the experience of not being anymore in the way they were perceived or expected to be by a neurotypical world. It introduces a profound sense of shared human condition, and perhaps a subtle yet deeply comforting affirmation that one is not alone in their existential crises or acts of withdrawal.
It turns isolation into connection, in a way.
It transforms personal pain into a collective experience, recognizing a shared path of unmasking and identity shifts among many. The key insight here is the universal nature of profound identity shifts and the solidarity found in shared experiences of neurodivergence.
And the closing. She will be remembered. Not that matters no more. I wonder if you will remember, but it matters no more. I'm not here anymore.
Such a complex ending.
The focus here shifts to memory and external validation, but then it's abruptly dismissed. It's a poignant, almost chilling closing statement.
This ending is incredibly complex and layered, revealing the profound journey Sergio is articulating. The initial thought of being remembered suggests a flicker of the ego's desire for legacy or impact, a deeply human need. But it's immediately extinguished by "not that matters, no more," indicating a profound detachment from external validation. This detachment is a core aspect of true unmasking, letting go of the desperate, lifelong need for others' approval or recognition, which had previously dictated so much of the masked self.
And I'm not here anymore.
That final line is a definitive, almost absolute statement of absence. This could reflect the complete dissolution of the former self that existed solely for others, the masked persona ceasing to exist. Or it could even point to a deeper depressive state where the very sense of self has faded, a kind of existential quietus.
It challenges the listener directly, too.
It does. I wonder if you will remember, yet ultimately dismisses the significance of that remembrance, underscoring the depth of this internal transformation or withdrawal. The ultimate liberation comes from releasing the need for external validation, even if it feels like a kind of disappearance.
Okay, from the mythical retreat of Dragon's Lair, we now transition to Rainblack. And the imagery and tone here feel starkly different, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. A real shift.
Less about a hidden sanctuary and more about a direct, unblinking confrontation with the self and external perception. It feels raw and immediate.
Absolutely. Rainblack is a profound, almost defiant exploration of the Jungian shadow archetype, that often unacknowledged or rejected part of ourselves, containing both perceived flaws and powerful, untamed aspects.
So embracing the darkness.
It's a confrontation with those hidden parts, yes, but also a fierce assertion of identity, particularly for an autistic individual striving to define themselves in a world that often consistently misunderstands or mislabels them.
Right, the constant misunderstanding.
This track delves into the complexities of internal suffering, societal projection, and the often painful yet ultimately liberating process of authentic self-revelation. It's about owning what society deems dark and claiming it as an integral part of one's being.
So the core insight is embracing that shadow.
True authenticity often requires embracing the parts of ourselves that society has taught us to hide.
Yes. Let's jump into Rainblack, Part 1. The opening is incredibly direct, almost aggressively defiant. You keep on asking, who am I? I am the Rainblack, the dire shadow in the clear of day, a black spot in the sun. Not an eclipse, not a mistake. I am the black spot in the sun.
Wow, what a statement.
This is a definitive statement of a complex, almost paradoxical identity. That exhaustion in the first line.
The opening immediately sets a confrontational and deeply exhausted tone. That line, "you keep on asking, who am I?" powerfully conveys the immense fatigue of constantly having to explain oneself, a common and deeply frustrating experience for neurodivergent individuals.
Justifying your existence.
Exactly, constantly asked to justify their very existence or way of being. Rainblack is such a potent symbol. It's rain, typically associated with clarity, cleansing, or even sorrow, but it's black, denoting darkness, mystery, or a heavy, undeniable presence.
A shadow in daylight.
It's a dire shadow in the clear of day, a fundamental, inescapable part of the self that exists even in presumed clarity during times when one is expected to be bright, normal, or conventionally happy.
And it's permanent.
And crucially, this isn't an accidental mistake or a temporary eclipse, but an inherent black spot in the sun, a permanent, intrinsic quality This could be a powerful metaphor for autism or ADHD as an undeniable, integrated part of one's being that society often struggles to accept or even acknowledge, viewing it as a flaw rather than a fundamental difference.
So it's defiance.
This isn't just about acknowledging the shadow, it's about integrating it with defiance and claiming it as part of identity.
Yeah.
The lyrical voice is saying, this is who I am, unchangeable, and you need to see it.
And it continues a strong boundary setting. If I turn out the light, it's not an invitation, it's the ghosts that haunt me. It is my shadow, not yours.
That repetition, my shadow, not yours. Very clear.
It's a critical distinction between internal struggles and external projections. It's almost a warning to the listener not to project their own discomfort onto the speaker.
This is a powerful statement of personal autonomy and clear differentiation. Turning out the light is explicitly stated not as a social gesture, an invitation for interaction, or an attempt to manipulate, but as a deeply personal response to internal torment, the ghosts that haunt me.
Which could be many things.
Could be past traumas, ingrained self-criticism stemming from a lifetime of masking, or the overwhelming sensory and social demands of the world that trigger states of shutdown. And crucially, the repetition and emphasis on, it is my shadow, not yours, directly addresses the pervasive tendency of others to project their own discomfort, judgments, or expectations onto the individual.
Stop making it about you.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
This is a vital aspect of unmasking.
Yeah.
It's about reclaiming one's internal landscape and experiences from external interpretations and ownership, and refusing to carry the burden of others' inability to comprehend their authentic self. The core insight here is the absolute necessity of reclaiming one's internal world from the projections and misinterpretations of others.
It certainly continues that palpable frustration. If I turn out the light, it is not to feed your obsession, it's not a game, but you make it worse every time. And the truth I hide, I don't want you out of my sight.
That frustration is so raw.
The idea of being perceived as a puzzle or a game is so frustrating, and there's clearly a hidden, vulnerable truth here, even with that last contradictory line.
This continues the strong boundary setting, powerfully rejecting the idea that the individual's complex internal world, their very existence, is merely for others' entertainment, curiosity, or for them to solve.
And the you make it worse part.
The phrase, you make it worse every time, speaks to the compounding damage of repeated misunderstanding, misinterpretation, and attempts to fix or cure what is simply a different way of being. This often stems from internalized ableism, where society's biases against neurodivergence are absorbed and turned inward, making the individual feel like a problem to be solved.
And the hidden truth.
The truth I hide could be the authentic, unmasked self, or perhaps the raw, unvarnished depth of internal suffering that is too vulnerable to expose to external judgment. And the paradox, I don't want you out of my sight, is incredibly poignant.
Yeah, why keep them close if they make it worse?
Despite the immense frustration and pain caused by others' misunderstandings, there's a yearning for connection or presence, hinting at the inherent human need for relationship, even amidst the profound difficulties it can cause. It's a complex emotional landscape, balancing self-protection with a deep, albeit fraught, desire for closeness.
If I put out the flame, you are not to blame. If I turn out the flame, if I turn out the light, without it, my shadow just can't survive, and I know it well, neither can I.
This is a huge statement.
A profound acceptance of internal responsibility, maybe, but also a critical, almost self-destructive reliance on this shadow.
The flame here can symbolize external life force, hope, or even external social light and interaction. The statement, you are not to blame, absolves the external you, highlighting an internal, perhaps unavoidable process of self-preservation driven by internal necessity, not external fault.
And the shadow needing darkness.
The core, profound revelation here is that the shadow, the authentic, perhaps darker, less socially palatable, and unmasked parts of the self, needs the absence of external light to survive and truly exist. This is a profound reversal of typical understanding, where darkness is seen as something to be overcome or feared.
So hiding is survival.
For this individual, hiding, retreating, or existing in a less visible state isn't a weakness, but a necessary condition for their authentic self to endure and even thrive. The powerful conclusion, neither can I, equates the survival of the self with the survival of the shadow, signifying a complete and defiant integration of these often rejected aspects of self. It means, if my true self cannot exist in the light you demand, then neither can I.
Then these lines. I am the killer of the light, the screaming of the night, the peace, distress, the blight.
Such strong contrasts.
Very strong, almost aggressive self-definitions, showing intense internal conflict and contradiction. It feels very visceral.
These self-descriptors are deeply evocative of internal chaos and profound contradiction, powerfully reflecting the lived experience of bipolar disorder and ADHD. Killer of the Light reinforces the previous idea of needing darkness for the authentic self to thrive, a defiant stance against forced brightness or societal pressure to be on all the time.
And the screaming.
Screaming of the Night suggests profound internal anguish and unexpressed pain that manifests when the day's masks are off and the individual is alone with their thoughts and feelings, perhaps during periods of intense emotional dysregulation common in ADHD or manic-depressive episodes of bipolar disorder.
And peace, distress, blight.
The sudden, almost abrupt shift to the peace, distress, the blight encapsulates the rapid mood shifts and extreme states of bipolar disorder, where moments of profound peace can quickly turn to intense distress, and chronic illness like fibromyalgia can be a constant, debilitating blight on one's physical and mental existence. This is a raw portrait of a mind in constant flux, where seemingly opposing states not only coexist, but define the very essence of the self.
So the insight is the integration of opposites.
The profound, inherent contradictions of a neurodivergent and mentally ill experience where polar opposites are integrated into a single identity.
Yes, don't share your secrets with me. I'm louder than silence, the silence that screams, the silence that feeds the howl you don't want to hear.
Another warning.
A stark warning and a powerful paradox of silence being incredibly loud and impactful. What does that mean, louder than silence?
It emphasizes the profound intensity and richness of the individual's internal world. Their silence is not empty or void. It's a profound, overwhelming space filled with screams and a howl that others might find too uncomfortable, too disturbing, or simply too overwhelming to acknowledge or confront.
Like internal noise.
It can be interpreted as the immense internal noise of ADHD, the constant thoughts, sensory input, and emotional processing that occurs beneath the quiet exterior, or the unexpressed pain and anger of living with chronic illness and a lifetime of misunderstanding.
So why not share secrets?
It's a warning against sharing secrets, perhaps because the individual's own internal noise is so consuming that they cannot truly listen, or because they possess an almost uncanny ability to see through facades, perceiving unspoken truths that are louder than silence and too raw for others to comfortably engage with.
Then this really captivating image. I am the buyer of souls, once not for sale. In silence, in whispers, I need to be heard.
It's fascinating imagery.
Buying souls. It implies power, perhaps a reclamation, and then a deep, almost desperate need for recognition and understanding, but quietly.
This phrase speaks to the power gained through adversity, profound internal transformation, or the insights gleaned from deep suffering. Buyer of souls, once not for sale, could mean reclaiming parts of oneself or others that were thought lost, compromised, or externalized for societal acceptance.
Or understanding others.
Or it could be a reference to the profound insights and deep empathy gained from experiencing deep suffering and navigating complex internal landscapes, allowing one to understand the hidden, authentic souls of others.
And the need to be heard in whispers.
The juxtaposition with "in silence, in whispers I need to be heard" is incredibly poignant and central to the neurodivergent experience. Despite the loud, intense internal landscape and powerful, almost defiant self-definitions, the underlying need for understanding and validation is subtle and intimate. It reflects a common autistic trait of needing communication to be clear, direct, and authentic, even if quiet, rather than relying on performative social cues or loud, crowded environments. It's a plea for genuine recognition beyond superficial interactions.
Then these identity statements. I am the cloud across the sky, the traitor in your fight. I am not freedom, I am your ties.
Wow. Obstruction, betrayal, entanglement.
Right, striking implications, not liberation or clarity. What's behind traitor in your fight?
Cloud across the sky signifies an obscuring force, a natural element that impacts perception and casts shadows, perhaps on others' perceived reality or expectations. Traitor in your fight is a sharp, perhaps self-deprecating or even self-aware statement that the individual, in their unmasked, authentic form, may not be what others expect or want in a companion or ally.
Challenging loyalty.
It challenges the notion of unwavering loyalty to external expectations, suggesting that their very nature, when unmasked, might disrupt others' plans or comfort.
And I am not freedom, I am your ties.
The most profound line, "I am not freedom, I am your ties," suggests that the individual, despite their own struggles for liberation and authenticity, inadvertently becomes a source of constraint or entanglement for others. This could be interpreted as the challenges others face in adapting to neurodivergent ways of being, or the deep emotional bonds that, despite difficulties, inextricably bind people together. It also touches on the idea that authentic relationships require both parties to be truly seen, and that can be a tie that some find uncomfortable.
Okay, let's move into the Rain Black extended version because there's some really powerful additions here that deepen the narrative significantly. First, the man who carries the knife, I cross myself, betray myself as soon as I turn my back.
This adds a layer of violence, but directed inward.
Right. It introduces a new violent self-descriptor, but it's also deeply self-inflicted, a self-sabotage.
The man who carries the knife is a powerful and disturbing image of self-aggression or self-sabotage. I cross myself, betray myself, speaks directly to the intense internal conflict and pervasive guilt, where the individual becomes their own worst enemy.
How does this link to ADHD or masking?
It can be deeply tied to the pervasive self-criticism that often accompanies ADHD, where executive dysfunction, the challenges with planning, organizing, task initiation, and emotional regulation leads to perceived failures and a constant internal sense of falling short. It also connects to the internalized ableism from a lifetime of masking, where one absorbs society's biases against neurodivergence and turns them inward, leading to self-punishment for perceived failures to conform. It's a raw confession of internal torment and self-inflicted wounds.
Then that knife seems to be externalized, or at least the impact is felt by others. The man who carries the knife, the coward who'll get you when you turn your back.
Yeah, the threat shifts outward here.
It's no longer just internal betrayal. How do you read this?
This shifts the focus from purely self-betrayal to a projection of how others might perceive them, or a stark warning of how their unmasked self might inadvertently impact those close to them, the coward who'll get you.
What could that mean specifically?
It could be the unexpected bluntness, the lack of neurotypical social graces, or the unconventional approach of an autistic individual who no longer masks, which can feel jarring or even hurtful to others. Or it could reflect the unpredictable nature of someone grappling with bipolar disorder, where their internal struggles and mood shifts might inadvertently lead to behaviors that hurt those they care about, causing them to feel like a coward for not being able to control it.
So it's a fear of hurting others.
It reveals a deep-seated fear of being a burden or a source of pain or disappointment for others, a fear that often accompanies mental health conditions.
More chilling descriptors of an unsettling presence here. You asked, who am I? The cold spot, the dark, the threat you feel as soon as it's dark.
Very atmospheric and unsettling.
These phrases emphasize the unsettling, almost uncanny nature of the unmasked self when it is fully revealed, especially in contexts of vulnerability or intimacy. Cold spot, dark, threat.
These are the uncomfortable truths, the raw realities that society often tries to avoid or label as purely negative. For someone with autism, their directness, a perceived lack of neurotypical social warmth, or their discomfort with superficiality can be interpreted this way by others.
And as soon as it's dark.
Particularly, as soon as it's dark, suggests moments when social norms may feel less clear, when facades drop, or when internal struggles in the authentic self become more apparent without the protective layer of the persona, perhaps during emotional intimacy or in moments of crisis. It's the inherent otherness that can feel threatening to those who prefer predictability.
Then this defiant part. I am the hero in the story you don't want to read. Once that heard it, you'll never forget. Once that you hear it, you can't walk away.
A powerful claim to heroism.
The defiant declaration of heroism within an unwanted narrative, almost a challenge to the listener. It's quite arresting.
This is a powerful twist and an assertive declaration of self-worth and significance. The individual asserts their own heroism, not in a conventional sense of grand deeds or saving others, but as the protagonist of a difficult, uncomfortable truth, their own lived experience.
The heroism of just being authentic.
It's the profound bravery of living authentically with neurodivergence and complex mental health conditions, a story that challenges societal norms and expectations about what constitutes heroism or a good life.
And the impact on the listener.
The idea that once heard, you'll never forget and you can't walk away speaks to the profound, inescapable impact of true vulnerability and the raw, unvarnished reality of their lived experience. It demands witness, compels engagement, and suggests that embracing one's shadow is a heroic act in itself, even if it makes others uncomfortable. The key insight is that heroism isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it's simply existing authentically against societal norms.
Then this vulnerability returns. I become the stranger I don't know myself I am who turns out the light. One scared of shadows. In night they don't survive. In darkness, neither do I.
That stranger to myself feeling resonates with late diagnosis.
Right, the theme of not knowing oneself returns, and the complex, almost paradoxical relationship with light and dark is reemphasized. What's new here?
I become the stranger I don't know myself. Perfectly captures the profound identity crisis that can accompany a late diagnosis, especially when the person realizes the self they knew and presented to the world was largely a performance or a mask. It's a shattering of a constructed reality.
And turning out the light now means something else.
The act of turning out the light now gains another layer of meaning, becomes an act of protection from shadows, which could be internal fears, anxieties, external judgments, or even the overwhelming sensory input of a bright world, rather than just an embrace of their own inner darkness.
But there's a danger in that darkness, too.
The paradox, in night they don't survive, in darkness neither do I, suggests that while darkness offers refuge for the authentic shadow self, allowing it to exist, it also brings a profound risk of dissolution or loss of self for the individual. It's a delicate and dangerous balance. A complete surrender to the dark bits could mean losing the self entirely.
We get new, unsettling terms here. The dark light, the most dire flashback, the disturbing truth your mind always hides.
Dark light, another paradox.
Yeah. What do you make of dark light and dire flashback?
Dark light is a compelling oxymoron, symbolizing the paradoxical nature of truth found in what is conventionally perceived as darkness, or an internal state where light and dark coexist in a confusing yet illuminating blend. It suggests truths that are simultaneously hidden and revealing. Dire flashbacks suggest traumatic memories or a revisiting of past pain that is deeply unsettling, perhaps a re-experiencing of previous moments of profound misunderstanding or self-betrayal triggered by the unmasking process.
And the disturbing truth.
This is the disturbing truth. The unmasking process reveals deep-seated realities about oneself and the world that the conscious mind, or the persona, had actively suppressed or hid for a lifetime to survive. It's the uncomfortable truth about one's neurodivergent reality that was buried under layers of masking.
The earlier warning intensifies significantly here. You share your secrets to me. Don't cross me. Beware, I'm louder than silence. When I am silent, you better run away.
It's much harsher now.
The silence here becomes even more menacing, almost potent with unexpressed power. Why the escalation?
The warning becomes more severe and urgent, escalating the stakes. The individual, having integrated their shadow and confronted deep truths, now possesses a powerful, almost unsettling awareness and a profound capacity for observation. Their silence is not emptiness or absence. It's a highly charged, potent state full of unspoken intensity and potential for profound impact.
Like the silence before a storm.
Exactly. This reflects the deep and rich inner world of an autistic individual, where what is unsaid can be incredibly potent and overwhelming, a repository of intense sensory input and deep thought. The chilling advice to run away when they are silent suggests that this state is either too overwhelming for others to bear, or it signifies an impending internal collapse or expression of raw truth that they wish to spare others from witnessing. It's a recognition of their own overwhelming internal state and a protective warning.
There's a bridge here, notably marked pianissimo, implying intimacy or vulnerability. It returns to the powerful image of I am the buyer of souls, but then immediately introduces temptress and fake smile. It's a complex shift. Bridge pianissimo, I am the buyer of souls, once not for sale. Through that silent space, I want to be heard. In a crowd, I am the void, I am just me. The temptress, a fake smile, I am just me.
The softness is so striking after the intensity.
Yeah, the pianissimo dynamic marking is crucial here. It suggests a vulnerable whisper, a moment of raw, exposed truth, revealing a core desire for authentic connection despite the earlier intensity and defiance.
Buyer of Souls is revisited, emphasizing the ability to connect with deep, often hidden parts of self and others, perhaps through profound empathy born from shared suffering. Through that silent space, I want to be heard, is a deeply poignant and crucial line for an autistic individual. It expresses the profound need for understanding and validation.
Not through noise, but quiet recognition.
Precisely. Not through forced social interaction or neurotypical performance, but through genuine, quiet recognition of their deep inner world. In a crowd, I am the void perfectly captures the feeling of sensory and social overwhelm that many autistic and ADHD individuals experience, leading to a sense of non-existence or emotional emptiness in group settings where the mask is difficult to maintain.
And temptress, fake smile.
The temptress and fake smile are powerful admissions of past masking, the alluring, deceptive persona adopted to navigate society, to gain acceptance, to appear normal. The repeated, I am just me, is both a resignation to the unadorned self and a brave, vulnerable declaration of that raw, unembellished authenticity. acknowledging both the painful past and the present truth.
Then, the man who carries the knife. When it is raining, I'm the rain black, I can't turn.
The knife and rain black identity linked.
The knife returns, now explicitly linked to the rain black identity, and a sense of being unable to change or escape this core identity, especially under duress when it is raining.
The knife is now explicitly tied to the rain black identity, suggesting that this self-destructive or self-revealing aspect is intrinsic and unavoidable, especially when it's raining, when emotions are high, when the internal storms rage, or when life itself becomes overwhelming. The phrase, "I can't turn," signifies a profound acceptance of this inherent nature.
An acceptance of the unchangeable.
An honesty about the parts of oneself that cannot be altered or escaped, perhaps due to the deep integration of neurodivergence and mental health conditions into one's core identity. It's not a choice to be this way, but an acknowledgement of a fundamental, unchangeable truth about themselves. The key insight. Some aspects of our being are so fundamental they become inseparable from identity, even if they come with a knife.
And then, this profoundly heartbreaking revelation about how the individual perceives others' views of them, and a brutal honesty about potential separation. You think I'm your light, through hard times your smile, the pain you won't feel when I say goodbye, the pain you won't feel, the shame and regret, in secret you wish you never met.
Oh, that's devastating.
This is a stark portrayal of the cost of authenticity. It's just brutal.
This reveals the profound empathy and often painful awareness the individual has for others' perceptions of them, especially the masked self, that provided comfort, guidance, or ease your light, your smile. This is the persona that others grew attached to.
And the goodbye.
The subsequent lines are a stark and painful projection of future abandonment, a preemptive grief for relationships that may not survive the unmasking. The pain you won't feel and shame and regret suggest that the goodbye is not just physical, but an emotional or relational severance, perhaps as the unmasking becomes too much for others to bear or understand.
And the final line.
The final searing line, "In secret you wish you never met," is the deep-seated fear of being a burden or a source of disappointment, a common anxiety for those managing complex neurodivergence and mental health conditions. It's a stark acknowledgement of the potential costs of authenticity, that in being truly seen, one risks rejection from those who preferred the mask. This is the profound, vulnerable truth of anticipating abandonment when your true self is revealed.
Okay, our next song is Rushed by the Wind. Immediately, you get this cyclical, almost hypnotic repetition and this overwhelming sense of falling.
It's quite visceral, isn't it? That feeling of being out of control.
Completely, it pulls you right in.
This song serves as a deep dive into existential loss, the profound pain of unmasking and confronting the void left by a life lived inauthentically, and the feeling of utter powerlessness common in profound grief, depression, or burnout.
It feels like coming apart.
It powerfully evokes the trauma of self-dissolution, of literally feeling like you're coming apart at the seams, losing your sense of self. The repeated phrase, "rushed by the wind," acts almost like a mantra, pulling the listener into this relentless descent.
Rushed by the wind, into the light, now I end in the void, now I fall in the dark.
This opening immediately sets a tone of being out of control, propelled towards an uncertain, seemingly negative end. The journey into the light is immediately inverted.
Rushed by the wind, again highlights a profound lack of agency, being swept along by forces beyond one's conscious control, echoing the initial imagery from Dragon's Lair. The journey into the light at first suggests hope, clarity, or revelation, perhaps the moment of diagnosis or self-discovery.
But it doesn't lead there.
No, it swiftly pivots to the void and the dark. This paradox is key. The light of self-discovery or diagnosis can paradoxically lead to a terrifying confrontation with existential emptiness, the unknown, or the profound grief of what's lost. It feels like a fall rather than a rise, a descent into a new, unfamiliar, and often terrifying reality where the old self is disintegrated.
So discovery can be traumatic.
It can be. This is a powerful depiction of the disorienting, often traumatic experience of unmasking and accepting a new reality that shatters former constructs.
I feel the shock. I cannot react before hitting the ground. A visceral, physical sensation of impending impact and paralysis. The inability to react is so striking here.
It conveys the overwhelming nature of the experience, the sudden, unavoidable impact of realization or trauma. I cannot react as a classic physiological and psychological response to overwhelming stimuli or shock, often seen in autistic shutdown or dissociation.
Where the system just freezes.
Exactly. Where the ability to process and respond to external demands is temporarily or even completely disabled. It's a profound sense of paralysis in the face of an incoming blow. The anticipation of hitting the ground suggests a looming catastrophic collapse, a fear of reaching the ultimate bottom, the point of no return for one's identity or emotional state. It's the feeling of impending total breakdown.
I am smoke, I am ash, just a memory that will not last.
Powerful metaphors for complete dissolution and ephemerality, everything just dissipating, leaving only a fading echo behind. Smoke and ash powerfully symbolize the complete breakdown, burning away or dissolution of the former self, leaving only insubstantial remnants. This is the ego's dissolution, the complete shedding of the persona that was worn for a lifetime.
And the fear of being forgotten.
The declaration of being just a memory that will not last speaks to a deep fear of being forgotten, or perhaps a profound, albeit painful, acceptance of the transient nature of identity after such a profound seismic shift. It's the grief not just for the self that was, but the terror that even that memory, that remnant of existence, will fade into nothingness. The core insight, unmasking, can feel like an existential cremation, leaving only fleeting echoes of a former self.
Then this line, I had a future, you did have a past.
The timelines again.
A poignant distinction of timelines, almost an inversion of expectations between the narrator and the anonymous you. It implies a stark contrast in their journeys.
This line is deeply sorrowful and speaks volumes about the impact of a late diagnosis. I had a future implies that a previously imagined or planned future has been irrevocably lost, stolen, or fundamentally altered, possibly due to a late diagnosis that recontextualizes one's entire life path and potential.
Like a path just vanished.
It feels like a life path that was once clear is now gone, mourned. The contrast, you did have a past, perhaps refers to the external you, who has a stable, understood, and coherent history, someone whose life narrative makes sense to them, highlighting the narrator's fragmented or redefined sense of time and identity, where their own past now feels like a performance, a lie, or something that wasn't truly theirs. The fundamental disparity in existential footing.
The imprisoned pearl, freed by your hand, you left the shell buried in sand. This is such a beautiful yet tragic metaphor of liberation that immediately turns into abandonment.
It's incredibly evocative. The imprisoned pearl is a compelling Jungian symbol for the self, or the true authentic core that was hidden, masked, and suppressed beneath layers of societal expectation.
Freed
By your hand suggests that another person, perhaps a therapist who guided the diagnostic process, a supportive friend, or even the process of diagnosis itself, played a crucial role in this unmasking and liberation.
But the freedom leads to being discarded.
However, the subsequent lines, you left the shell buried in sand, reveal a profound and heartbreaking sense of abandonment. The liberation of the true self paradoxically leads to the discarding and forgetting of the protective shell, the persona mask, by the very hand that initiated the liberation. This leaves the unmasked self vulnerable and alone, or feeling discarded and misunderstood once the difficult, raw truth is exposed.
So unmasking can lead to isolation.
It highlights the painful reality that unmasking, while liberating for the individual, can also be incredibly isolating if those around them are not equipped to handle the authentic, unvarnished self. The core insight, liberation isn't always gentle, and freedom from the mask can lead to unexpected forms of abandonment.
A cry in the void, words that don't matter, swept in the past, these tears in denial, just a cry in the void. The futility of expression here is palpable, trapped in an echoing emptiness. It feels hopeless.
This reinforces the sense of powerlessness and profound despair. The expression of pain and anguish, cry in the void, tears in denial, is unheeded, unheard, and ultimately rendered meaningless. Words that don't matter.
And this connects to autistic experience, too.
It powerfully echoes the experience of many autistic individuals whose expressions of distress, pain, or need are often misunderstood, dismissed, or invalidated by neurotypical society because they don't conform to expected communication styles. This can lead to a feeling that their very words and emotions are swept in the past without impact, disappearing into an echoing chasm where no one truly hears. It speaks to the deep isolation that comes from repeatedly being unheard or dismissed.
The ghost in the door, a shadow of smoke into the tide, just clouds and no moon, no lighthouse in sight, just clouds and no moon.
More spectral, lost imagery.
More spectral imagery here, and a pervasive sense of being utterly lost at sea without any guidance or hope, adrift.
Ghost in the door and shadow of smoke reinforce the ephemeral, almost non-existent quality of the narrator. This is the feeling of being an intangible presence, hovering between states of being and non-being, neither fully here nor fully gone.
Lost at sea.
The imagery of into the tide, clouds, no moon, and no lighthouse in sight vividly portrays a state of profound disorientation, a complete lack of guidance, and existential lostness. There's no clear path forward, no beacon of hope or direction, reflecting the deep uncertainty and isolation that can come with late diagnosis and the traumatic unmasking process.
When the old maps don't work anymore.
Exactly. It's the feeling of drifting aimlessly in an overwhelming sea of the unknown without any external point of reference or internal compass. This speaks to the intense vulnerability when the old structures of identity have crumbled and new ones have yet to form.
The core motif is repeated here, almost like a desperate refrain leading to a chilling final statement. Rushed by the wind, into the light, rushed by the wind, into the dark, I have been here before, and I am no more.
That final couplet is just wow.
The repetition feels relentless, and then that ending.
The repetition of rushed by the wind, into the light, rushed by the wind, into the dark, emphasizes the cyclical nature of this experience, perhaps the relapses into depressive episodes, the recurring overwhelm of ADHD, or the constant shifting of mood states in bipolar disorder. The oscillation between light and dark highlights this inherent instability and the unpredictable nature of his internal landscape.
And I have been here before, and I am no more.
The final lines, "I have been here before, and I am no more," are incredibly powerful and deeply unsettling. "I've been here before" suggests a recurring pattern of dissent, familiar, painful suffering, hinting at a chronic state of overwhelm or existential crisis. "And I am no more" is the ultimate statement of self-erasure, signifying a complete loss of the recognizable self, a profound identity shift, or an enduring state of non-existence of the former self.
The end point of grief for the self.
This is the harrowing endpoint of the grief for the unmasked self, a state of profound dissolution, where the individual feels literally gone from themselves and from the world as they once knew it. The core insight. The process of unmasking can be a cyclical, disorienting journey that fundamentally alters one's sense of self, sometimes to the point of existential erasure.
Okay, our final song today is Silent I Remained. This feels different again, distinct from the previous, more turbulent themes.
Yes, a change in tone, definitely. Quieter.
It's a quiet piece, but incredibly powerful, a profound reflection on observation, comparison, and the quiet despair of lost dreams and unfulfilled potential.
This song positions itself as a deep dive into the psychological impact of social comparison, the profound grief of unrealized life paths, and the deep, often piercing isolation that can accompany a late diagnosis.
Looking back differently.
Exactly. It's where one's past choices, missed opportunities, and future aspirations are reevaluated through a new, often painful lens of self-understanding. It's truly about the internal world of deep reflection versus the external reality of societal ideals, a painful reckoning with what could have been versus what is. The quietness of the title belies the profound internal turmoil it explores.
Today I remain silent. Today I remain silent. The immediate repetition here sets a tone of intentional withdrawal, a conscious choice to observe rather than participate, almost as a strategic maneuver.
This immediate repetition underscores the profound significance of the silence. It's not just a lack of speech, but a deliberate, profound internal state of observation and non-participation, a kind of self-imposed solitude.
And this relates to autism, too.
For an autistic individual, this can be a common and often necessary coping mechanism in social situations to remain silent and conserve precious energy while intensely processing the environment and internalizing what is happening around them. It's a strategic retreat from overwhelming sensory or social demands, a way of managing overstimulation and anxiety, but it often comes at the cost of active engagement.
So silence as a tool.
The core insight: silence can be a profound, intentional act, a means of self-preservation in an overwhelming world.
Then the lyric presents this vivid portrayal of an idealized, almost archetypal, successful life that the silent observer is witnessing. The man of 1,000 jokes, of projects and desires, of absolute security, of the woman by his side, of the love he has found.
The picture of normal success.
It's a picture of conventional happiness, the societal ideal.
This describes a personified ideal, the man, who embodies almost every societal expectation of happiness, achievement, and romantic fulfillment. 1,000 jokes suggests effortless social ease. Projects and desires points to ambition and purpose. Absolute security speaks to financial and emotional stability. And woman by his side, love he has found, represent the pinnacle of relational success.
All the tick boxes.
Pretty much. These are all hallmarks of a neurotypical, socially integrated, and conventionally successful life. This serves as a stark, almost painful contrast to the narrator's internal state and lived experience. It highlights the immense societal pressure to conform to these ideals and the deep pain of seeing others seemingly effortlessly achieve what feels so profoundly out of reach or perhaps even undesirable for oneself, given their authentic neurodivergent self. It's the idealized persona that Sergio had perhaps tried to embody for so long.
The narrator is clearly a quiet observer, and there's a really painful recognition of past aspirations that are now gone. Today in silence I sat and listened to all have projects and goals that once I had.
That phrase, that once I had, it hits hard.
It really does. The recognition is devastating.
The contrast here deepens profoundly. The silence becomes an act of active listening and agonizing internal comparison, a quiet, contemplative space where painful truths surface. The devastating part is that once I had. This speaks directly to the profound, multifaceted grief that often accompanies a late autism diagnosis.
Grief for the lost path.
It's not just grief for what is currently lost, but grief for lost opportunities, for a lost identity, for a future that was once envisioned but now feels unattainable or irrevocably altered by the new, often painful, understanding of oneself. Past dreams, goals, and even relationships might now be viewed as having been pursued under a false pretense or as having been made impossible by undiagnosed neurodivergence.
The what could have been.
It's the profound sorrow for what could have been, if the true self had been known and understood earlier in life, and the subsequent reshaping of one's entire life narrative. This is a very common experience for late diagnosed autistic individuals, a deep sense of a timeline divided into before and after diagnosis, with significant losses in the after.
And the portrayal of this ideal man continues with more details, but also a hint of a less appealing side, almost arrogance. In his lap, an unborn infant, and looks around with lofty eyes, can mock any topic upon hearing the neighbor speak and make a mistake.
Interesting, that critical edge appears.
Yeah, it's not just admiration. What's going on there?
The unborn infant further emphasizes the future, potential, continuation, and legacy of this conventional archetypal life, highlighting the narrator's perceived lack of such a lineage or conventional future. Lofty eyes and the ability to mock any topic or a neighbor's mistake subtly introduce a critical perspective on this ideal man. This is a very interesting detail.
What could it signify?
It could be the subtle yet piercing judgment of the neurotypical world from the autistic perspective, recognizing the superficiality, insensitivity, or even cruelty beneath the polished, socially acceptable exterior. Autistic individuals often perceive social hypocrisy or ill intent more directly due to a less filtered social lens.
Or something internalized.
Or it could be the narrator's own internalized judgment, a reflection of a lifetime of masking and trying to fit in, where they observed and absorbed these judgmental tendencies from others, perhaps even engaging in them reluctantly themselves as a form of social camouflage. It adds a layer of complexity to the ideal being observed, showing its potential flaws.
And then, the direct, heartbreaking confession of the narrator's present reality in stark opposition to the observed ideal. Today, however, I remain silent. I have no woman by my side. All my projects have slowly collapsed.
The silence breaks with this raw truth.
This is a raw lament, just laying it bare.
This is the core lament of the song, the raw, unvarnished truth that cuts through the idealized observation. The emphatic today, however, signals a painful pivot from dispassionate observation to present reality and personal suffering. The absence of a partner, no woman by my side, speaks to profound social and relational isolation, a common and deeply felt challenge for autistic individuals, especially those who have spent a lifetime masking and then unmasking, finding genuine connection incredibly difficult.
And the collapsed projects?
The crushing weight of all my projects have slowly collapsed reflects the very real impact of executive dysfunction from ADHD, where initiating, planning, and sustaining tasks can be a monumental struggle, leading to uncompleted endeavors. It also speaks to the debilitating effects of chronic pain like fibromyalgia, which saps energy and makes consistent effort almost impossible.
And the impact of diagnosis itself.
And finally, it reflects the profound emotional exhaustion and redirection that can follow a late diagnosis, where previous life structures crumble as the mask falls and a new, often overwhelming reality sets in. This is the tangible outcome of the deep grief experienced, a life reshaped by truth and loss, a quiet acknowledgement of the dreams that withered. The core insight, the unmasking process, while necessary for authenticity, often comes at the tangible cost of conventional life structures and personal aspirations. #tag outro.
Wow. We have truly taken a profound and I think deeply intimate journey today, following Sergio's lyrical path.
It feels like we've covered so much emotional ground.
Absolutely. From the retreating dragon in its lair, a powerful symbol of withdrawal and lost identity, to the defiant rain black confronting its shadow and societal misunderstanding.
Then the terrifying fall and rush by the wind that speaks to dissolution and that existential void.
And finally, the quiet, heartbreaking despair of silent unremained, a lament for unmet aspirations. It's a rich tapestry of human experience, isn't it?
What stands out to me across all these powerful lyrics is the sheer courage it takes to unmask, to peel back layers of a lifetime of performance and reveal a raw, authentic self.
It's incredibly brave.
We've seen the complex, pervasive grief inherent in a late autism diagnosis and the rediscovery of self, a profound mourning for what was, what could have been, and what now is.
And the impact of ADHD, bipolar.
We also saw the constant internal conflict stemming from ADHD and bipolar disorder, the rapid shifts, the contradictions, and the unique challenges they present. But through it all, there's an undeniable resilience required, not just to endure, but to articulate such deep, raw vulnerability.
His advocacy shines through the art.
Sergio's experience as a mental health advocate is so powerfully reflected in his art, offering us a rare and vital glimpse into the inner world of someone navigating such profound personal truths, making the invisible visible through song.
And while these lyrics are deeply personal, rooted in Sergio's unique neurodivergent and mental health journey, they offer such universal insights, don't they?
Definitely. Insights into identity, self-acceptance, and that fundamental human need to be seen and heard, even when that expression comes in silence, in whispers.
It challenges us to look beyond the surface, to listen more deeply.
And this raises an important question for you, our listener, to carry with you and contemplate. If the deepest truth of ourselves can feel like a black spot in the sun to others, or manifest as a howl you don't want to hear, what courage does it truly take?
Not just to speak it.
Exactly. Not just to express that truth, but to allow it to exist within yourself, and perhaps even find a different kind of light or strength within its inherent darkness. How do we embrace our own shadows, and what does that mean for our authentic self?
A truly powerful thought to carry with you. Thank you for diving deep with us today into these incredibly meaningful lyrics. We invite you to continue reflecting on your own understanding of self, your own shadow, and the quiet, potent power of authentic expression. We'll be back soon with another deep dive.